Writer, inventor, politician, many have called Ben Franklin the first citizen of the 18th century. As a boy, he was apprenticed to his brother as a printer, which exposed him to new books and ideas. Franklin's biggest literary and financial success was Poor Richard's Almanac, filled with illustrations, proverbs, and parables of his own creation. As an inventor, Franklin is best known for his work in electrical theory.
What he did as an experimenter in electricity was to establish the laws by which electricity operates, how to store electricity, how to use it. He snatched lightning from the skies and scepters from the hands of tyrants.
He believed lightning was just a more powerful version of the spark from a Leyden jar. To prove his theory, he conducted his famous experiment with the kite and the key. As a politician, he still stands as one of America's most effective statesmen and ambassadors. In the summer of 1776, Franklin was part of the five-man committee that would draw up the document declaring American independence. Desperately in need of arms, the self-declared independent United States looked to France. When it came time to decide whom to send on this important mission, they chose Franklin.
Who became the second president of the United States, called Tom Paine a mongrel begotten by a wild boar on a bitch wolf, so obviously he didn't like him very much, and he had this kind of fear of his radicalism. Other members of the revolutionary generation, like Thomas Jefferson or Sam Adams, they were much more comfortable with him, and they were very appreciative of his efforts to make the revolution a reality for all Americans, to inspire all Americans by the ideal of Republican freedom. They were glad that he saw it as a mission to establish Republican freedom as a kind of beacon for the rest of the world in America.
And you feel the excitement of being on the cusp of something so profound that it's hard to put it into words.
If you review our Declaration of Independence, it has those beautiful words about all men are created equal and governments are formed among men to represent the people. It was a good statement of what we were all about. And that's the only thing people remember about the Declaration of Independence, that it was about all men are created equal. But it's really roughly a 28-count indictment against King George. And therefore, because of the way in which the British Crown treated us, we now declare that we are a free country, and we want to let you know why. Now, if we're going to have a war, we're going to have a war.
In 1776, you have the Continental Congress meeting in Philadelphia, debating a unified position for the colonies with respect to the hostilities that have already broken out. And the fundamental issue between them is, are they fighting for their rights as Englishmen within the British Empire, or are they going to fight for independence? And they're seriously divided. People who are perfectly willing to resist the tyranny of the British government are not necessarily willing to strike for independence. But there's a groundswell in favor of it, I think, in large measure because they recognize that having provoked the lion this far, there's no going back.
All of a sudden you have this group of people who are going, no, we're not part of some great chain of being with the king at the top of it. We are free people. We can vote for who we want to have in charge. And we're not going to tolerate you telling us that we have some class status we have to be trapped in. It says, we are endowed by our Creator with certain inalienable rights, meaning that Parliament in London, the King himself, the courts cannot interfere and take away your rights because the state can't take power from us. Even to this day, it's probably the most central difference between America and every other country in the world.
It goes well beyond what was needed in order to declare independence. It establishes a philosophical basis for a civil democracy in which all persons are guaranteed rights by virtue of their personhood.
This political genius, not just in Jefferson, but in Adams and all the other people who collected here, they saw a new time for humankind, which is that we can be free and that we can make decisions for ourselves.
Chair recognizes Mr. Patrick Henry, delegate from County Hanover.
No man, Mr. President, thinks more highly than I do of the patriotism as well as the abilities of the very honorable gentleman who has addressed the House. But different men often see the same subject in different lights. And therefore, I hope I will not be thought disrespectful to those gentlemen if, entertaining as I do opinions of a character opposite to theirs, I speak forth my sentiments freely and without reserve. This is no time for ceremony. The question before the House is one of awful moment to this country. For my part, I consider it as freedom or slavery, and in proportion to the magnitude of the subject, ought to be the freedom of the debate. I have but one lamp by which my feet are guided, and that is the lamp of experience. I know of no way of judging of the future but by the past. And judging by the past, I wish to know what there has been in the conduct of the British ministry for the last 10 years to justify those hopes with which the gentlemen have been pleased to solace themselves and the House. Is it that insidious smile with which our petition has lately been received? Trust it not, sir. It will prove a snare to your feet.
He acts as though he was afraid to speak out.
Suffer not yourselves to be betrayed by a kiss.
Your Excellency, I've just come from the church. Patrick Henry is making a speech and
Very well. I see no reason for further delay. You have your orders. Arrest him.
Yes, Your Excellency.
Ask yourselves how this gracious reception of our petition comports with the warlike preparations which cover our waters and darken our land. Are fleets and armies necessary to a work of love and reconciliation? Have we shown ourselves so unwilling to be reconciled that force must be called in to win back love? Let us not deceive ourselves, sir. These are the implements of war and subjection, the last arguments to which kings resort. I ask the gentleman, sir, what means this martial array if its purpose be not to force us into subjection? Can gentlemen assign any other possible motive for it? Has Great Britain any enemy in this quarter of the world to call for all this accumulation of navies and armies? No, sir, she has none. They are meant for us, and they can be meant for no other. They were sent over to bind and rivet upon us those chains which the British ministry had been so long forging. And what have we to oppose them? Shall we try argument? Sir, we have been trying that for the last 10 years. Have we anything new to offer?